What you have chosen, Mr. Richardson, is to re-articulate at the cost of the known, at the cost of the known, and the choice to re-articulate, and the choice to re-articulate at the cost of the known, at the cost of the known implies that all things must be made, implies that all things must be made new, including the foundation of identity that you have known yourself through, that you have known yourself through. Now the historical data that informs your every waking moment, that informs your every waking moment, is always present, it does not go away, it does not go away. You know what a log cabin looks like, you know what an airplane is and does, you know what an airplane is and does, but without the attachment or the meaning that has been impressed upon you, and the values, things have been given throughout time, the act of rearticulation, the monad as expressed, lifts you to a level of vibration, where you can no longer agree, underline the word agree, which means confirm, underline the word agree, which means confirm a reality that you are moving beyond, the rearticulation of history. The rearticulation of history, or the reknowing of history, is not whitewashing, is not pretending it didn't happen, it is reseeing it. It is reseeing it, and what has caused you the most pain, and what has caused you the most pain in any culture, in any civilization has had its genesis in the divine, in the denial of the divine. When you stand in the field, and you claim God is, and you claim God is to all that has been created, you're also informing the Genesis. You are also informing the Genesis, or what catalyzed events into being, the one who becomes a martyr, because he holds a belief in suffering, the one who becomes a tyrant, because he seeks to empower, because he seeks to overpower others through his presence. Is acting out from the implicit denial, of the divine, that is reclaimed, that is reconfirmed, and chosen anew from the upper room, the talk that you will be receiving on the intellect, in days to come. Will claim you each in a comprehension, that what you think is wisdom, is merely rote, and until you know wisdom, which is the knowing as of God, you are just doing your best. You are just doing your best to sort through data, to make an informed choice, But because the data has been so entrained, through logic and then through fear, your endeavor to sort through, is like trying to separate poison peas in a pan. It may look better, it may not be as bad, but until you realize the truth, everything that you claim must be informed by its inheritance. Now there is high inheritance. The divine self, the kingdom, your true inheritance, and then there's the inheritance, And then there is the inheritance of the small self, neither good nor bad, but challenging in most ways, the inheritance of small self, the inheritance of the small self, who you think you are based on what you thought you were supposed to be, based upon who you thought you were supposed to be, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a man or a woman, or this or that, or this or that. The ideas or trends of each day, may be ever changing, but the fundamental truth of your presence, the eternal self can be claimed, and in its reclamation, reclaim all it encounters. Now, the field that you stood in. Now, the field that you stood in was comprised of many things, the artifacts or memories, of personal history, and the residual affect, of choices made, by others throughout time, The one who harmed you as a child, was provoked to that harm, through his or her own history, and the idea of culpability and blame, begins to vanish in a certain way, when you understand that the genesis of any act of harm, provoked by fear is the implicit denial of the divine, Now, indeed, you are responsible to your acts. But to claim another, in darkness, because of his or her acts, is to deem them as separate, And if you wish to claim everyone who ever harmed you, known and unknown, in this field, and claim the offering we offered you, and claim the offering we offered you. Behold, I make all things new. Behold, I make all things new. God is, God is, God is, God is, God is, God is. You will see the light. You will see the light that was present in them, that was present in them, that was so denied, that they could cause such harm, In this act, you release them. In this act, you release them and liberate yourself, from the residual affect, of your claim, of their act. I can't hear, of their act. Now, we will say this to Paul. We know you have questions. We are taking them as we understand them. But please let us resume as we wish. The memory of any pain. The memory of any pain can be reknown, can be reclaimed, can be reclaimed. The choice is up to you. Most of you believe that you will always be held captive, by what happened to you, what this one said or did, what this one said or did, what those people decided, or how this country has chosen to operate, or how this country has chosen to operate, or that one, to perpetrate a crime against the self. A crime against the self is to deny the divine, its own act of redemption, through you. Do you understand this? Do you understand this? God can never be where the pain was. God can never be where the pain was. Puts God in the box. puts God in the box outside of the field, outside of the field. You have placed God there. You have placed God there, and in your self-righteousness and in your self-righteousness, take a bow. Take a bow that you are correct, that you are correct. God was not there. God was not there. Now, when you have an atrocity, at a mass level, you have conditioning. You have conditioning that would suppress the divine, that would suppress the divine to the level that a people or a country can ignore an injustice, can ignore an injustice and perpetrate crimes against others. This has happened throughout history. And it's born in lack. A belief that God cannot be someplace, a belief that God cannot be in some place or in those people to redeem memory. To redeem memory is to know God where the memory was, and in the act itself, that produced the memory, because the memory is tainted, through the perception of the one, who bore witness to the pain. To see this from the upper room. To see this from the upper room is not to condone what happened, it's to witness from perspective. It is to witness it from a perspective where you are no longer blaming, If you wish to blame, enjoy your day. If you wish to blame, enjoy your day. This is not the teaching for you. Most of you wish to blame. But pretend you don't. You wish to be sanctimonious. In your behavior, but your heart speaks otherwise. To forgive another is to set the self free, Do you understand this? To punish another, to condemn another, to decide another is unworthy. To decide another is unworthy of the kingdom. Is to place yourself right in the middle of nothing, And by that we mean your choice to put another in darkness. Your choice to put another in darkness has confirmed your own place there. When we teach through Paul. We must override an idea he holds. That what is taught must be pleasant, must be agreeable to the reader, He wants no one to be offended by what we say. We are about to offend many people. You are rarely right. You know this? Did you know this? Even your idea of right and wrong, and the moral codes you ascribe to, are born in a history, that has been tainted by fear, and your idea of doing the right thing, while it may be noble, and have good effect, is primarily born in the fear of doing the wrong thing, How many would steal? How many of you would steal if you thought you'd not get caught? If you thought you would not get caught? How many of you would murder? How many of you would murder if it was okay to murder? You would all say, no, I would never do that. You would all say, no, I would never do that, but most of you would. And in fact, you all have it in you. To catalyze the aspects of self, to catalyze the aspects of self that are capable of murder, that are capable of murder, capable of taking from another, capable of taking from another, is not to act in fear, is not to act in fear. To reclaim them is an act of love. To reclaim them is an act of love, and to know that the self holds this, and to know that the self holds this, these kernels of hatred or fear, these kernels of hatred or fear that can act in ways that are harmful. That are harmful is to redeem the self, is to redeem the self at a level of agreement, that few go to, as long as you are not acting on the impulse to harm. As long as you are not acting on the impulse to harm, it is all well and good. It is all well and good. It is fine to covet. It is fine to covet your neighbor's possessions, as long as you put the silverware, as long as you don't put the silverware in your pocket. You understand this, yes? You understand this, yes, but in fact those needs which are born in lack and fear, are the catalyst for the pain you see in the world, and they are born in the divine, and they are born in the denial of the divine. I would like you all to take a moment now. We would like you to all take a moment now and sit with the self, and ask yourself this question, Are there any aspects of my being? Are there any aspects of my being that are capable of hatred, capable of justice, capable of judgment, capable of murder, or any other thing you can think of, or any other thing you can think of? If the answer is yes, we invite you to do this with us. We invite you to do this with us. Very softly, please. On this day I claim that any aspect of my being, in denial of its true nature, hidden from light, and the source of greed or fear, will be reclaimed. Any aspect of self that breeds violence, will now be reknown as of God, chosen anew, re-identified, and brought to the light, so it may be reknown, Again now, see yourself in the field. And see these aspects of self, that are within you, also surrounding you, and align them to the divine nature, that must be all things, You may say these words if you wish. I am free, I am free, I am free. I am free, I am free, I am free. I am in the upper room. I am in the upper room. I have come, I have come, I have come. I have come, I have come, I have come. And to your own creations, now you say this. And to your own creations, now you say this. Behold, I make all things new. God is, God is, God is, God is, God is. God is, and allow the vibration to run, and allow the vibration of the divine to release you from what you have denied, from what you have invoked in fear, from what you have invoked in fear, and what you may provoke in action, through acquiescing to the deed, that they endeavor to make, We say this to each of you now. We will support you in this. Through our claims on your behalf. You have come, you have come, you have come. You have come, you have come, you have come. We see you in the upper room. Behold, I make all things new. Behold, I make all things new. God is, God is, God is. God is, God is, God is, the 5 words, and let the vibration of these words lift you, recalibrate, speak again through you, speak again through you. God is, God is, God is, God is, God is, God is, audible tone, at the level of tone and choice that you have come to, that you have come to. We say this now. We say this now. It will be so. It will be so. God is, God is, God is, God is, God is, God is. Stop now, please. Stop now, please. Period.
Deep breath. What a blessing. Thank you so much for being here. Join me in knowing that love continues to unfold, that infinite intelligence that is everything, that is everyone, that is everywhere, reveals itself through and as and in all of its creation that includes each of us here. That love is right at hand, right here, right now, all unfolding in divine order. I'm grateful for the good. I'm grateful for the love. I'm grateful for the presence. I'm grateful for the insights and the new awarenesses that each one of us has. I'm grateful for this law, this principle that always responds with a yes. It's allowing this new good as us to flow forth into being. And so it is. Amen. Reverend Charles is going to be starting in, let's say, can we go a couple minutes late? A couple minutes after 11. He requests to start in silence. He will be meditating. So we will all clear the room quietly right now and do all of our chit-chat in the lobby and come back in silence for Charles' workshop.